No fudge. Does anyone want some? Got nuts in it.
You can always count on Meatwad cheering you up, right? Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Power Up Podcast. It's a show that takes place in, I guess, where I'm at. It's a show that takes a look at what's happening in pop culture, good, bad, ugly, you know, spiritual, whatnot. We give our 2 cents about it. I'm sure a lot of people know about the Charlie Kirk assassination and are still upset about it. I'm still very upset about it. Like, my hatred for evil has never been higher. It is insane. And of course, Scum being Scum, celebrating about it happening and hoping that it happens to other people. It just goes to show who really the demons are in this insanity and in this world here. But we got some articles here. I'm thinking that I will kind of pull back a little bit on the Power Up podcast in terms of trying to game some more, just because getting a little burnt out, a little bit. But that made, that's what I'm thinking, and devote a little bit more for gaming, but still have it in terms of like scripted content or guests that come on the show. So you might see that starting next week here. I wanted to at least wrap up the weekend here. But we've got some articles pulled up here ranging from a bunch of different topics, games, Charlie Kirk, like I said, and demons being happy about it. And they are demons. Let's not kid ourselves here. They're disgusting, soulless worms. And, the mask is fully off. And then, of course, Nintendo being Nintendo and sucking. Apparently, I don't know if the patent went through or what, but they got a patent that's going to cause major problems, and it's a huge L on Nintendo's end. Absolutely retarded. So let's get into it, shall we? All right. So this comes from Niche Gamer here, and I'm tired of this lie that there could be a connection with video games involving mass shooting, according to RFK Jr. This has been debunked so many times, but boomers and, Democrats and all that stuff, they just don't want to admit to it. They don't want to admit to it. There is no linkage whatsoever. But here they are still pushing this retarded narrative. And I know his wording says there could be. I understand that. But still, to even tease the idea, it's getting tiresome. There is no evidence whatsoever connecting the two, because if that's the case, then you can apply it to pretty much anything. But let's check out what the article says. In a recent press conference, RFK Jr. listed video games as a potential cause for recent mass shootings alongside drugs and other factors. Drugs 100% for sure. A certain ideology, i.e. woke and liberal ideology, absolutely. Video games, no. Because you take a look at the people who do this stuff, and they're always on something in some way, shape, and form, and it's always certain individuals from a certain group of people in terms of ideology. RFK Jr. is the United States Secretary of Health and Human Services under the Trump administration. Discussions about violent media and the potential impact they may have in individuals in distress have been going on for decades. Critics claim that violent video games and similar materially to real-world acts of violence, whether that's Jack Thompson's railing against Doom or the United Nations saying that fictional media can incite violence against women. RFK Jr. on mass shooting. There are many things that happened in the 1990s that could explain these. One is the dependence on psychiatric drugs. There could be connections with video games. Over the many, many years, this argument has been made. Research consistently affirms that violent video games do not correlate to any increase in violent behavior. This study has been repeated by multiple sources, including studies from the Normal Censorship Happy UK. Kennedy also mentions other more likely causes of increased violence, including increased drugs use. So, University of Oxford, violent video games found not to be associated with adolescent aggression. This is back from 2019, February 13th. You can read it here if you want. Study uses nationally representative data from British teens and their parents alongside official EU and US ratings of game violence. The findings were published in Royal Society Open Science. The idea that violent video games drive real-world aggression is a popular one, but it hasn't tested very well over time, said the lead researcher, Andrew Przybyliski. I don't know. Despite interest in the topic by parents and policymakers, the research has not demonstrated that there is cause for concern. Study is one of the most definitive to date, using a combination of subjective and objective data to measure teen aggression and violence in games. Unlike previous research on the topic, which relied heavily on self-reported data from teenagers, the study used information from parents and careers to judge the level of aggression based on their children. Additionally, the content of the video games were classified using the official Pan-European Game Information EU and then the US Entertainment Software Rating Board rating system, rather than only players' perception of the amount of violence in the game. Our findings suggest that researchers' biases may have influenced previous studies on this topic. Of course, that's not a shock, and have distorted our understanding of the effects of video games. Yep. Part of the problem in technology research is that there are many ways to analyze the same data, which will produce different results. A cherry-picked results can undue weight to a moral panic surrounding video games. The registered study approach is a safeguard against this. No correlation was found between playing video games and aggressive behaviors in teenagers. Researchers emphasize that this does not mean that some mechanics in situation gaming do not provoke angry feelings or reactions in players, but this can be like you can get the same thing reading a book or watching the news. So that means nothing. Anecdotally, you do see things as trash talking, competitiveness, and trolling in game communities that could qualify as antisocial behavior. This would be an interesting avenue for further research. But again, you literally see your trash talking while going to a football game or any sort of competition. So that means nothing as far as I'm concerned. I just wanted to see that, though, because that's good that there's actually a study there. And it also has been repeated. The Royal Society. It's kind of like the same thing. Oh, this is like this is a more in-depth one. So there you go. Nice. Props to Niche Gamer for finding that. But yeah, I'm tired of hearing this crap. It's been debunked many, many times. Lakers Fortress just subscribed over on YouTube. Thanks, guy. Well, some uplifting news. Acclaim marks its return by announcing new 9 games. These games are just the beginning of our mission, the CEO declares. It was announced back in March that Acclaim, which declared bankruptcy on September 1st, 2004, has been resurrected, led by CEO Alex Joseph, former founder and CEO of Graffiti Games. Turnip Boy commits tax evasion. Okay. Now, a presentation dubbed the Play Academy Showcase, the returning publisher revealed 9 new titles by indie studios. We're ecstatic to relaunch Acclaim with a lineup that captures our legacy of bold creativity and delivers fresh, unforgettable experiences, Joseph said in a statement. What's up, Komanga? Acclaim is back? That's crazy. Apparently so. These games are just the beginning of our mission to redefine fun for players, and the full list of games, complete with Acclaim's own description, is as follows. So we've got a game called Toss Down, developer Fur Factor, coming for PC and console. Deliver packages in a world where everything's out to kill you, escape wild hazards and enemies, fight back using wacky power-ups, and choose from a variety of perks to improve your chances of survival. Doesn't seem like my cup of tea personally. Ooh, Ground Zero Hero. Rowan Edmondson is the developer. Ground Zero Here is an action roguelite with light survival elements in a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Battle mutated freaks, absorb their radioactive guts, mutate yourself to gain new powers, and eat a lot of candy. Oop, got a basketball game. Basketball Classics. Namo Gamo. Apparently, it is out now on PC. Coming soon to Nintendo Switch. 5-on-5 Pro basketball born from the golden era of sports games. The spiritual successor to the 8-bit Ballers Bridge, that gap between retro and today's simulation games. Side-scrolling arcade action is paired with on-the-fly strategy. 3-button gameplay is easy to pick up, but it's the dynamic play calling that elevates this title beyond just long bombs and acrobatics. Pixel Washer. Oh, this reminds me of Power Wash Simulator. Valadara, step into the hooves of Pixel? Yeah, Pixel. A plucky pig armed with a powerful power washer, tasked with cleaning up a messy town. Wielding your trusty washer, you'll spray your way through a variety of exciting challenges. The Prisoning Fletcher's Quest, Elden Pixels. Enter the mind of Fletcher Howie Jr., a game developer on the brink of physical and emotional burnout during the final stages of an intense project. After a visit to the psychologist that goes horribly wrong, you must escape your perilous mental prison, a Metroidvania drenched in anxiety based on a very true story. And Grid Beat by Ridiculous Games, a rhythm-fueled cyber dungeon crawl where every move must match the music or risk total system shutdown. You just breached NOS OS, planet's most fortified corporate network, and made off with a payload of priceless data. Now you're trapped inside, hunted by rogue security protocols and hostile malware. Your only way out, sync with the system. Move to the beat and escape before the grid locks you down for good. Talaka by Potato Kid, a fast-paced, combat-driven roguelite that brings Afro-Brazilian mythology to life in a vivid, hand-painted world unlike anything you've ever seen. Interesting. Hyperyuki Snowboard Syndicate. Race, compete, and explore the slopes as a colorful cast of unique characters, but what's snowboarding without a little bit of drip? Through exploring and racing, you can unlock cosmetics as designed for your snowboard and clothes to make you shine the brightest while shredding. So I think there's a game that's kind of similar to this that I remember back in the day. Catanauts. Ooh. Cananon is a fast-paced, Metrovania-inspired action roguelite blending fluid combat and cosmic horror. Slash, dodge, and wield powerful abilities as you battle through a station sprawled with twists, once human horrors. Dab, survive, and descend into the shadows to uncover dark secrets. Lovingly dubbed Dead Space Cells by early fans. Well, that looks pretty cool. That one actually might be one to pick up. But there you go. There is Acclaim's games coming in hot after the revival, so maybe you guys might enjoy it. As if Naughty Dogs can't act like they're hot shit, but apparently Naughty Dog hails Intergalactic as the evolution of all its games. Oh my gosh. Naughty Dog is best known for its single-player games, and it's currently working on Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. The game faced a wave of criticism upon its release, mainly due to the main lead. Yeah, because this shit doesn't sell. But because it's Naughty Dog, retards are going to buy it probably. And not even really care about the game, just to show it to the enemy. But we'll all see how they respond. However, setting that aside, many longtime Naughty Dog fans are genuinely excited about what's to come. Cuckman, who's leading the project, has also shared some interesting insight. He described the game as an evolution of everything the studio's created so far. And it's received a lot of backlash, mainly due to its main lead. But there's still hope that Naughty Dog can deliver a solid experience. In a new interview with Variety, Cuckman was asked to elaborate on what he meant when he said the upcoming title would feature the deepest gameplay yet. He shared his optimism about the project and hinted at the massive scale of the game. He emphasized that it's set to be the best game the studio's ever made, featuring the strongest gameplay elements they developed to date, which is definitely something to look forward to. Neil Cuckman, yep, that's what I call him. He explained that this evolution began with the earlier titles, starting with Uncharted. It progressed with The Last of Us, which introduced deeper RPG elements. I never got RPG elements from The Last of Us. You just pick up items. Okay. And now we'll continue with their upcoming game. Continuing that trajectory forward at sci-fi, and we've got even more ambitious than ever. Or ambition than that. That's his quote. Look at our previous tile, see the evolution of going from Uncharted with The Last of Us, added some RPG elements, and then what I just read. According to him, the studio has become more ambitious than ever, and he believes fans will be pleasantly surprised by what's in store. I think we'll be surprised for all the wrong reasons. Never played The Last of Us. Part 1 is good, Part 2 is absolute garbage. Cuckman also mentioned that this is the most ambitious and expansive game Naughty Dog has ever created. He believes that by the time development is complete, it may stand as the studio's most expansive title to date. Good for him. I hope it flops miserably. Because you just look at this and see that it's going to be garbage. And since Cuckman hates Christianity, and it seems to be that there's a religion in there that has been evil since the beginning of time, methinks it's going to be the Christianity version in the universe. Every other religion is fine, but that one's a big no-no. And why do I think that? Because the script has always been the same every time. And they act like it's something new, and it's not. So Hideo Kojima says, job interviews are a place where lies meet lies. This just caught my eye here. But his own encounter with an HR manager taught him to speak honestly to applicants. He shared his views on the job interview process, calling it a place where lies meet lies. In an essay written for Japanese women lifestyle magazine, Ann, Kojima said he recently saw the 2024 movie Rokunin no Usosuki na Gakusei, 6-line college students, and it got him thinking about his past job interviews. In the essay, Kojima explained that when he started his job hunt in '85, he wanted a creative career, but was at a disadvantage because I have been so mentally exhausted and apparently physically exhausted because there was an unspoken agreement between companies and colleagues where promising students could be bought up and employed quickly after graduating. So a liberal arts graduate from a second-rate private university with no sports clubs, no overseas studies, and no connections, I was at a considerable disadvantage in my job hunt, he said via a machine translation. Although he still wanted a creative career, Kojima realized he couldn't afford to take a year off from work or go to graduate school. I had no choice but to lie to myself and start job hunting. Kojima recalled that large companies rejected his job application based solely on the name of the university he went to. And when he did make it to group interviews, when I told the interviewer I wrote novels, I was met with laughter. Lying became part of the process, Kojima said. At some big companies, if they don't remember your name at the company information session, you wouldn't move on to the next round of selection. So you had to deliberately ask quirky questions to attract attention. And that does make sense. Everyone had no choice but to hide who they were and adapt to the company, acting like a chameleon. This false daily life was a far cry from the dream-chasing job hunt. Eventually, Kojima got an interview with a medical equipment manufacturer where he told the HR manager his true feelings. To his surprise, the HR manager told him, I think you're better suited to a creative field, Kojima. Go for it. I hate the term liberal arts. Well, it does come from the seven sacred sciences from mysticism and all that stuff, and spread about the world by Enoch the Evil from Scripture. Kojima said that advice convinced him to narrow his search to the gaming. Dude, I can't stop yawning. I am so, like, checked out. And this is part of the reason why I'm kind of thinking about putting the show on a hiatus. Just because of that. Or this, I guess I should say. I no longer had to lie, he said. I spoke sincerely about my past experiences, the novels I'd written, my creative track record, and showed them my portfolio of work and idea books. Of course, this eventually led to Kojima joining Konami in '86, which resulted in a host of iconic titles like the Metal Gear series, followed by his subsequent departure and the establishment of Death Stranding studio Kojima Productions. He concluded his essay by pointing out that both interviewers and interviewees lie during the interview process, but he says his experience with the HR manager at the medical equipment manager has taught him to stay honest during these interviews. It's my second year of the workforce. I've been sitting on the interviewing side, he said. I'm the one listening to students' lies. However, interviewers also lie. This is because they're not just expressing their personal opinions, but representing the company. An interview is a place where lies meet. However, I don't lie, not because I represent the company. I interact honestly with students. I also give advice to those who aren't suited for the job, just like the HR manager whose name I no longer remember, who changed my life. What a way to not remember the name, but remembering that it changed his life. And we'll be reading about this one here in a second. I did see this also on Niche Gamer. Censorship or choice, the ongoing debate in localized games. I don't know if this is an opinion piece or not, but it did catch my eye. For many developers, localization goes beyond simple translation to adapting storylines, visuals, and character traits to match cultural expectation. The goal is to make players in one region feel as connected to the story as those in another. Yet heated debates often crop up around this process. Fans argue about censorship, publishers point to business realities, and regulators introduce their own equipments. It's a battle between creative intent and local standards that shape how games are published in different markets. Regulations, restrictions, and a question of freedom. Some regions alter entertainment products heavily before release. Scenes are changed, dialogues rewritten, and a certain visual element removed to comply with local laws. Players are left asking whether these changes really protect audiences or if they're just suppressing artistic choice. The debate crops up in other sectors too, including streaming platforms, films, and even online casinos. So the way strict regulations affect online entertainment, like gambling, is a good example. Many countries' laws limit which games can appear, how winning are paid, and even how sites advertise themselves. For this reason, some users turn to crypto casinos that operate outside of national restrictions. These platforms have digital payment options, fast withdrawals, and game selections that might be blocked in some regions. The situation matches that of video games. How much control should government have over what people can access and what should player choice come in? Oh, and where player choice comes in. Gamers are used to seeing content adjusted or removed. And this is when localization feels like censorship. Japanese role-playing games are often changed when moving to Western markets. Costumes may be altered to appear less revealing, dialogue rewritten to tone down themes, or entire mechanics removed if they clash with culture or legal expectations. While publishers argue that these adjustments make games more marketable, longtime fans often see them as unnecessary censorship that damage the original vision of the creator. I agree with that statement 100%. Titles that originally featured suggestive content or complex storylines were heavily altered for Western releases. Fans who import original versions often share comparisons online, sparking anger at what is seen as overreach by publishers. The situation is not limited to Japan and the West. Chinese regulations restrict supernatural themes, religious imagery, of course, in reference to politics. This forces developers worldwide to alter their games or to miss out on such a large market. The debate over censorship is also about what is valued in different cultures. North America, violence is often acceptable, but sexual imagery isn't. In contrast, Europe it's pretty much the other way. Stricter attitude towards violence, but more leniency towards sexuality. Developers must weigh these preferences carefully, deciding whether to produce multiple versions of the game or to limit their release entirely. Meanwhile, players are in turn frustrated and determined to campaign for uncensored editions across forums, social media, fan translations projects, aim to restore content that was altered or removed. Gotta love fan translation and the modding community in general. The divide often becomes a culture clash in itself, with one group defending the need for localization and another demanding full creative fidelity. Neither side has managed to silence the other, which keeps the debate alive. Each time with a new sparks controversy. What's up, Captain Falcon? The business side of localizations. For publishers, the decision often comes down to risk management. Releasing a game without adjustment could mean failing to meet local certification standards. These leads to ban, lost sales, heavy fines. On the other hand, adjusting a game can anger core fans who feel betrayed by the changes. Companies try to find a balance, but it's rare that everyone is satisfied. The financial stakes are high. Major releases cost millions to produce, and failing to launch in a key market can mean huge losses. This is why companies remove elements likely to cause trouble before they try to pass regulatory review. To players, this feels like bowing to outside pressure. To publishers, it's simply survival in a competitive industry. So here's some examples. Like in the 90s, Nintendo famously applied strict guidelines to all of its games. Religious symbols, blood, sexual imagery, often removed. Mortal Kombat's Western release on the Super Nintendo replaced blood with gray, quote, sweat, or smoke, pretty much. While players complained, the company argued that these measures protected its family-friendly image. Eventually, Nintendo relaxed its stance, but the controversy is a key moment in gaming history. In Germany, strict laws once required changes to depiction of violence. Many games released in the region replaced human enemies with robots or green blood to pass local standards. Oh yeah, I kind of remember that in Dragon Ball Z. They changed it to green. Or yeah, like with the turtles, the Foot Clan, they're usually robots. These versions often become notorious, with players actively seeking out imports to avoid them. Germany did eventually relax its regulation, but the memory remains. And of course, there's censorship in the digital era. Just kind of seeing how long this is. Digital distribution has both complicated and expanded the debate. On one hand, it allows players to import or download versions of games from other regions with relative ease. On the other hand, it gives platformers holds more control over what appears in their stores. Steam, PlayStation Network, eShop, each have their own policies on content. A game rejected from one platform may still find an audience elsewhere, but the barriers can be frustrating. That's where you just get the ROM and tell all the platforms that want you to buy their Game Pass stuff to go fuck themselves. Streaming platforms adds another layer. Games featured on services like Game Pass and Plus are subject to additional guidelines. As these services have wide audiences, they may have stricter policies on content, which means that certain games may never appear on these services at all. So player communities have grown resourceful in response. Mods are a common way to restore content or bypass restrictions. Yes, indeed. In some cases, publishers even turn a blind eye, allowing players to fix games themselves after purchase. Fan patches for imported titles are also popular, giving access to uncensored content without requiring official releases. At the same time, communities pressure companies through petitions, reviews, and online campaigns. While not always successful, these efforts have occasionally led to publishers releasing international editions or offering uncensored versions through alternative channels. Just goes to show how strongly players feel about choices in their entertainment. Streaming platforms, Netflix and Disney, also adjust shows depending on regional standards. Music services sometimes block tracks with politically sensitive content. Yeah, and sportscats alter depending on what local audiences are expected to tolerate. Oh my gosh. The lesson across industry is that content rarely travels untouched, and audiences often notice when it changes or when it's changed. For iGaming, strict regulations restrict both design and accessibility. Just as games face bans or edits, online casinos faces rules that control how and where they operate. So the debate likely won't fade. Developers want global audiences. Reaching them requires a compromise, however, and players want authenticity as well as access. Then you got the old government wanting regulations without driving users and unregulated alternatives. This three-way struggle defines gaming and will continue to shape its future. One possible path lies in transparency. Publishers openly communicate why changes are made. Players may respond with more understanding. Another option is offering multiple versions of a game through the increases cost. Though this increases cost, whatever approaches take, fans and companies will see the global market in different ways. So the question of censorship versus choice is not simple. It's about cultural values, financial pressure, and personal freedoms. For players, it's about authenticity, publisher, matter of survival, government control. Well, the government can just fuck right off, number one. Number two, if everyone's wanting uncensored versions, give them what they want and you'll survive because people will go and buy the money. So I understand what this article is getting at, but it's insane. Each group pulls in a different direction, which creates constant tension around the release of localized games. However, while solutions may differ, one truth remains. The debate will continue for as long as games cross borders. Players will always demand the chance to decide for themselves. There you go. Thought this was interesting. The Death Space creator expresses interest in making an Alien game. That would be Glenn Schofield. It's one of the most impressive portfolios in the industry. Dead Space and Callisto Protocol games, although the latter fails to hold a candle to its earliest work. Now, Schofield wants to try something new while staying afloat in the horror sci-fi genre. He has expressed his interest in making an Alien game, even though he'd prefer to create something original. The Alien franchise began in '79 and over the years have expanded into multiple entertainment mediums, such as cinema, video games, and even graphic novels. As such, there's no better candidate to handle such an important IP than Glenn Schofield. Talking to PC Gamer regarding his interest in the Alien game, he said, "Let's say I took on a license, which I really don't want to do. I want to make my own. As much as he'd love to prefer an original creation, he'd still want to go ahead with the project even with a license. Let's say somebody came to me and said, we're going to give you the Alien license. Immediately, I could show you maybe 100 different aliens I made in Midjourney over the last 2 years. So yeah, I would love to make an Alien game. However, for him to work on an Alien game means that he'll have to own the entire creative process behind the title, which is non-negotiable from his end. He further stated that he won't be able to make a great game unless it's his vision, which will include a 130% effort from him. Last AAA game in the franchise was 2014's Alien Isolation, which is confirmed to be getting a sequel. However, the franchise is strong enough to support a Schofield game in addition to an Isolation sequel. There you go. I think you would probably do a good job with an Aliens game. All right, so now we're kind of getting into the big political aspect of pop culture. Earthworm Jim creator Doug TenNapel offers to paint Merle of murder victim Irina Sarutska. I apologize. But yeah, this is the unfortunate girl who was stabbed in the neck by a demon and didn't do anything wrong. Pure evil. Doug TenNapel, the creator of Earthworm Jim, offers to paint street mural of murder victim Irina Zarutska was brutally murdered by DeCarlos Brown Jr. while traveling on the Charlotte Area Transit Station light rail in August. After stabbing her, surveillance video appears to show Brown saying, "I got that white girl," while he paced up and down the train. And then following Mr. Curtis' death, Intercom CEO and founder Egoin McCabe offered 500,000 and 10,000 grants to paint murals of her in U.S. cities. He wrote on X, "I'm offering 50K and 10K grants to paint murals of the face of Irina in prominent U.S. city locations." In response to this offer, Duncan Naple volunteered his talents. He initially wrote on X, "I can do this in my sleep. I started my professional art career as a muralist for SeaWorld in San Diego, currently in Franklin, Tennessee. A lot of good walls here are up at Nash." In a subsequent post, he went into more detail. "I've been a muralist and large-scale artist for over 35 years. I did this Lincoln on my own back wall in under an hour using a projector." He continued, "Enlarging measurements and doing the painting isn't the hard work with murals. It's getting permission from the building owners in Nashville so you don't go to jail for 7 months. I know enough business people in there that are legally grab about 5 or 10 walls legally and quickly. I think I could realistically render a full color or posterized black and white 12 by 12 of her in acrylic household paint or spray paint within 48 hours. Any big tech guy could drop 10K in crypto pure mural, and we could have 10 legal murals of Irina within a month for the public to enjoy," he shared. Thinking only within the genre of murals, small potatoes of maximum penetration in public consciousness is desired. I've enclosed a single color sample image of a template for making a stencil. Another use of funding would be to manufacture die-cut cardboard stencils that people can people can then distribute so that individual non-artists, not just muralists, can spray paint a 10 or a 2x2 image of their own house, garage, car, t-shirt poster, or on their house, garage, car, t-shirt poster. I have experience managing mass media art projects from TV shows, comics, and video games to my YouTube channel. Funding is wasted inside the box. If you really want to communicate in mass, then do it right," he concluded. Brown is facing a first-degree murder charge for killing Irina. He's also facing a federal charge of committing an act causing a death on a mass transportation system. Why even have, like Trump said, the trial should go quick and to the execution, to public execution. The guy's a demon. He was released 14 times, if I'm not mistaken. Put the rabid dog down and make the world a better place. FBI Director Kash Patel explained the brutal attack of Irina on the Charlotte Light Rail was a disgraceful act that should never happen in America. The FBI jumped to assist in this investigation immediately to ensure justice is served and the perpetrator is never released from jail to kill again. He could never be released in jail if you just, again, put him down like the dog he is. I want to thank Attorney General Bondi for pursuit of today's federal charges, which are the first step towards delivering justice for Irina and her family, as well as the millions of Americans who deserve to live in our great American cities, free from being targeted by violent criminals. Pam Bondi also stated, Irina was a young woman living the American dream. Her horrific murder is a direct result of failed soft-on-crime policies. I agree with that put criminals before innocent people. Yep. I have directed my attorneys to federally prosecute Carlos Brown Jr., a repeat violent offender with a history of violent crime, for murder. We will seek the maximum penalty for this unforgivable act of violence. He will never again see the light of day as a free man. He shouldn't see the light of day in general. He should be in a ground somewhere, not even worthy of a burial. Brown had previously been arrested 14 times and was known to have schizophrenia. No excuse. His arrest history includes felony larceny, robbery with a dangerous and communicating threats. He was sentenced to a 6-year prison sentence in 2015 and was subsequently released in 2020. After being released, he was charged with assaulting his sister. Wow. He was also more recently arrested in January after he called 911 and claimed a man-made material had been placed in his body and was dictating his actions. Guy clearly had a demon inside of him. Clearly, not just schizophrenia. The demon can possibly make schizophrenia, but the guy's a monster. Should have never been left out to begin with. Greg, the Irina Sarsutska stabbing is most likely a psyop. Nah. I don't know. All I know is evil is around us, and I'm tired of it. My hatred for it has never been stronger, and I want God's wrath to be poured out. Okay. There's also a chance it could be real. So Nintendo now has a US patent on summoning characters and make them battle for you. The new patent theoretically covers an action that is present in numerous non-Nintendo games. How did they get successful in acquiring this? This is retarded. As spotted by Games Fray, Nintendo was granted a patent last week which covers the action of summoning another character and making them battle on the player's behalf. Specifically, the patent describes a situation where a console or other system is being used to run a video game from storage. The player controls a character in a virtual space. The player can perform an input command to make a sub-character appear, i.e. summoning another character. If there's any enemy where the sub-character appears, the player can control a battle between the sub-character and the enemy. If there's no enemy where the sub-characters appear, the sub-character will automatically move around. The player can move the sub-character to a different location on the field, and if an enemy is there, they can control a battle between the sub-character and the enemy. Dude, that's like a bunch of games. How did they give this to them? This is stupid. The most obvious example of this patent in action is a Pokemon game, where a player can summon Pokemon and use them to battle other Pokemon on their behalf. It could theoretically be interpreted to cover a number of other games. Not theoretically, it can be. And Pokemon wasn't the first one to introduce that mechanism. It's fucking stupid. Another example could be Nintendo's Pikmin series, where players summon Pikmin by either uprooting them or choosing them from the player's ship and moving them to different locations, triggering fights if they hit an enemy. Yeah. There are already concerns online that Nintendo's new patent could lead to a number of lawsuits. Dude, I hope so, in which it sues on any other company that tries to implement a summoning mechanic in its game, putting future titles in series like Persona at risk. What I was saying about lawsuits, I hope a lot of companies need to band together and sue Nintendo. This is retarded. However, whereas trademark law says that a company could lose its trademark if it doesn't challenge any infringements, this isn't the case with patents. Nintendo is starting to annoy me. Yep. While Nintendo has patented this mechanic, it can choose not to pursue any other company that decides to use it, and only do so when it feels its own IP is being threatened. This was the case with Palworld, which has seen accusations of plagiarism from the Pokemon Company ever since its release in early 2024. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company filed a lawsuit against Pocket Pair in Japan last year, alleging that Palworld infringes on 3 patents that are related to monster catching gameplay, including summoning pals by throwing pal spheres and using pals as vehicle-like gliders. As if you can't hate Nintendo enough. They do that crap. And then Fandom Wire had an article about this as well. The Nintendo Palworld has reached a new turning point as the former has managed to obtain a new patent that widely covers the mechanics of summoning and battling minions like Pokemon. September 9th, 2025, Nintendo received a U.S. patent number 12, I'm not reading that, which is related to the smooth switching of riding objects mechanism. However, on September 2nd of 2025, the game giant also got a patent which grants them special access to the fundamental gameplay mechanics of summoning a character and letting it fight another. Thanks to the report from Games Fray, we also now know that the USPTO granted the patents. The request for the patent was filed by Nintendo back in March of 2023. It wasn't until recently that the USPTO finally granted it to the patent applicant. For those who don't know, the patent will cover certain gameplay mechanics after summoning a creature on the battlefield and letting it fight with others. If any other games or experience is found to copy the mechanics mentioned in this patent, they can be sued for patent infringement. For your reference, here's what Nintendo's latent patents cover. There must be a PC console or other computing device. Yeah, we're not. There's a list. I think we read all that too. So now that Nintendo has the patent, will it go out and sue everyone who has copied its Pokemon formula to make its game a huge success? Only time will tell. and how this affects other games. There are a bunch of titles in the gaming industry that resemble the idea of Pokemon creature collection, summoning and battling mechanics. Pal World, Temtem, and the upcoming Honkai Nexus Anima are a few examples of such games. Before the patent was granted to Nintendo, it was easier for other developers to create experiences similar to Pokemon. However, now that the patent has been granted, no similar feature can be included in those games. That being said, if Nintendo decides to sue Pocket Pair tomorrow, there's nothing they can do about it to fight back. They will have to change the in-game mechanic that allow players to summon their pals and make them fight. With this, the possibility of more Pokemon-like games is now over, so the fresh creature collection experience can no longer be found if Nintendo uses its patent to threaten other developers. What are your thoughts about the latest patent grabbed by the Japanese gaming giant? Let us know about it in the comments below. They're fags. That's my thoughts about it. They're fags, and I hope that they get sued up to wazoo, because I do not understand how that patent got accepted. All right, so speaking of fags, we got a bunch of them commenting on Charlie Kirk's assassination. One of them being Kotaku co-founder Brian Crescent, who mocked the death of Charlie Kirk on social media hours after the fatal shooting. He openly mocked it hours after the tragic shooting. Pigeon clip. This is yeah.
Go yourself.
This guy must be a fag.
There you go. I should charge for that. So while the shocking news broke that conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot at a Utah event, reactions poured in across the country. Most people, regardless of politics, recognize that such political violence is unacceptable. Yep. Yet one of the most troubling responses came from an unlikely corner of the media world. Well, not just the media world, a lot of people in general. And even though there's some people that are expressing it, extrovertly, there's other people who are internally, about it too. Let's be real here. But a lot of demons show themselves today, and sadly, it's only going to get worse. I think that's what probably frustrates me about everything that's happened. It's only going to get worse because Christ said it would, and it makes me angry. Yet one of the most troubling responses came from an unlikely corner. Brian Crescent, founder of Kotaku and co-founder of Polygon. Brian, who has also served as Variety's video game editor, openly mocked the shooting and appeared to rationalize it on social media. Instead of condemning what happened, Crescent mocked Kirk's suffering. In one wild shared post, he wrote, "Oof, Charlie Kirk's boys should have used the same team that faked Trump's shooting. This is what happens when you try to save money on your false flag operations." Oh my gosh. Yeah, makes no sense. Now I'm going to turn my head just this way, and you got to make sure that it clips my ear. Like, fuck you, you faggot. Another message, he went even further, justifying the shooting by tying it to Kirk's political positions. Imagine being upset that the architect of the insurrection attempt, an active COVID and election denier and climate change denier, got shot, the Kotaku founder wrote just hours after his assassination. Who knows how many deaths can be attributed to this guy? Oh, if you want to play that game, then you assholes are completely drenched in blood and deaths. And we all know who the real evil people is. These statements weren't just criticism of Kirk's politics. They were a direct mockery of violence and a chilling example of how some in media circles treat violence against political opponents as something to laugh at. Yeah, and I'm sure they would be more like upset if someone responded even more violently towards them and demand to be taken serious. These people do not understand on how lucky they are that the right controls themselves, because these people will be wiped off the face of the earth. That's the difference. The differences are the people who get mad when a black guy gets killed in terms of his own demise, and then riots and burns down many cities, compared to people celebrating that a guy gets assassinated that just wanted to have civil discourse. You can tell who the demons are. And I don't throw that word around lightly. So, he's one of the most recognizable figures in gaming journalism, if you want to know who Brian is. Founder of Kotaku, which is gay. Co-founder of Polygon, also gay. Launched under Vox Media. Was positioned as a prestige outlet for gaming and pop culture. Variety video game editor. Eventually transitioned into covering the video game industry from one of Hollywood's most important trade publications. Ran video game coverages at Rolling Stones. And he oversaw game coverage for a long-running publication. Yeah, at least we got actual self-control. I mean, it's getting to the point where people are going to get pushed enough to be like, okay, you want us not to have self-control anymore? We can. Even frickin' Killdozer knew what his targets were when he did that. Short, Crescent was at the heart of gaming journalism for nearly 2 decades. The legacy makes his word on Charlie Kirk all the more consequential. Just goes to show the media double standards. Shows on how violent acts are covered. When violence is directed at progressives, the media response is immediate. Denunciation of dangerous rhetoric, warning about extremism, call for unity. But when the target is someone on the right, like Charlie Kirk, those same standards seem to vanish. If a conservative journalism had mocked the shooting of a progressive figure, it would dominate headlines for days. Yet so far, the silence for mainstream outlets on this douchebag's remarks are deafening. The Kotaku founder openly and proudly mocked Charlie, father of young children, as of this writing, those posts remain up on his social media accounts. The issue here is bigger than one journalist's offensive remark. Charlie Kirk's shooting is itself a reminder of the toxic state of American politics, but the reaction from figures like Crescent shows how violence is being normalized, even celebrated, if it serves a political narrative. When prominent voices rationalize violence, they erode the very principle that allow a free society to function. Disagreements should be resolved through debate, as Kirk often invited, and elections, not bullets. Excusing such violence, no matter who it targets, is a path that leads nowhere to good. This is, I agree with that, but there comes a time when that doesn't work anymore. And saw a post that I reposted, and it was well said. David, essentially, like, it came to a point where David had to act by picking up a stone to fight Goliath. Okay, that's where words are apparently not reaching these people anymore. And if they want to be evil, then evil needs to be extinguished. He may no longer run Kotaku and Polygon, but the institution he helped create remains influential in gaming and media. That's why his reaction on Charlie Kirk's shooting deserves attention. This isn't just an offhand remark from a random user. It's a window into some in the elite media circles view violence against their opponents. Kotaku founder mocking Charlie Kirk should concern anyone who values civility, free expression, and safety in public life. I mean, sadly, people can mock Charlie, but it reveals who they are. It reveals that they're disgusting people and that they need to be isolated completely. And if they act up with violence, they need to be taken out swiftly. If we are to stand against violence, the standard must apply equally no matter who is targeted. Anything less is dangerous hypocrisy. I mean, but these people are the embodiment of hypocrisy and embodiment of dangerous. A lot of the demons inside of them are starting to trigger. So there's one faggot mocking Charlie Kirk. We also got this fat fuck. Gretchen Felker Martin mocks Charlie Kirk's shooting, claims police aren't people. And I believe this person's been fired, but I mean, that doesn't do anything. They should have never been hired to begin with. Shocking news. As we know, we're going to get a lot of repeats about, Charlie Kirk and the incident. One of the more disturbing responses came from inside the entertainment industry. Of course, a biological male who identifies as a female and is currently writing a Red Hood comic book for DC Comics openly mocked Kirk's death while also posting vile remarks about police officers claiming they're not people. I mean, again, do the left really want us to start not seeing them as people? Because we can do that. We can start doing, Inglorious Bastards. You want a permanent mark to show what kind of person you are? We'll etch it into you if you want. Because you guys seem to think your lives are constantly in danger, and this justifies it. When it's just that you don't want to accept reality. That you're not a woman. You're just a fat, overbeast piece of shit who doesn't want to hit the gym. DC writer openly mocked Charlie Kirk mere hours, fueling serious questions about judgment inside DC. Warner Brothers discovering the broader culture surrounding its creative hires. So instead of offering sympathy, measured criticism, or just say nothing at all, Felker Martin responded to the news of Kirk's shooting with open ridicule. Thoughts and prayers, you Nazi bitch, is what they wrote. And of course, it's on Blue Sky. Hope the bullet's okay after touching Charlie Kirk. Amazing. These weren't critics of Kirk's political position. They were celebrations of an act of violence that left a man, a father of young children, dead. The very same day, Martin also turned to attacking law enforcement, referencing a sequence in the upcoming Red Hood comics. Kept seeing people tweet Red Hood #1 for, I guess that's the delete word. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out why until I remembered it opens with a bunch of cops deleting themselves. I just don't really consider them people. For a professional attached to one of the world's biggest comic publishers, this is extraordinary. Glorifying violence in fiction while also treating entire groups of real world people, civil servants no less, as subhuman. I mean, I'm not a fan of police officers either, but yeah. But again, I mean, these people who are going around labeling their people they perceived as enemies as subhumans are really showing who the subhumans are. It's going to be a constant theme for me when you hear from this. Evil has shown itself, and I hate evil. And as far as I'm concerned, evil needs to be eradicated immediately. So, you want to know who the fat fucker is? A horror novelist. A debut novel, Manhunt, was widely publicized and appeared on multiple Best of the Year lists, while the follow-up Cuckoo, I guess, reached the U.S. Today's bestseller. Felker Martin has built a reputation for extreme horror fictions filled with body horror and identity politics, cultivating a following in progressive literary circles. Beyond novels, worked as a critique and essayist, often writing about horror films. So DC reached out to write a short story in Harley Quinn that would lead to an even more highly profile assignment or a full Red Hood ongoing series under DC's new all-in mature reading imprint. So announced in mid-2025, this person's Red Hood. It's described as a gritty pulp noir tale. Jason Todd left Gotham, Batman behind to take on a new city, new Angelique, consumed by corruption. Michael Martin promised a story of sweat, blood, and powder burns, broken bones, and mind control. The city rotted from inside out. The project is being positioned as one of the centerpieces of DC's new adult line. Controversially, they, as in the fat ass, admitted to deliberately avoiding reading past Jason Todd stories, claiming not to be interested in continuity. So you don't even know what you're doing. You're just making it up as you go, probably. This approach was already raising eyebrows among longtime DC fans, but the recent remarks about Kirk and law enforcement have turned concern into outrage. So you can see why this matters. It's about a professional and trusted, with one of DC's flagship characters openly cheering the death of a political activist and dismissing law enforcement's officers as subhuman. For DC Comics, this is a test. Does the company stand by a writer who mocks the death of Kirk and suggests police officers aren't people, or does it recognize the line has been crossed? They should have recognized it when they even considered hiring the fucker. Because in the end, violence cannot be celebrated selectively. If it's wrong from one side, it's wrong for all. I mean, let's be real. When evil gets annihilated, we're happy about it. So, and that is indeed a sort of violence. So this is something that where I understand what they're getting at, but again, let's be honest here. We celebrate when we see justice has been served, and sometimes, yes, violence is that justice being served. Mostly the death penalty. And if major publishers want credibility with audiences, they must apply to that standard evenly. And then, as if that wasn't enough, this is the last thing I have, but we'll wind down the stream. But Sucker Punch Productions creative artist Drew Harrison. So you're beginning to see the trend here. You're beginning to see, and specifically who the people are too, because it's exactly who you think it is. So Sucker Punch Productions senior staff creator artist Drew Harrison celebrated the assassination of Kirk almost immediately after his death. His first reposted and now deleted post from Rock Paper Shotgun co-creator and Kotaku writer John Walker, who wrote, "He died doing what he loved, being a transphobic, racist bigot." She then shared her own commentary. "I hope the shooter's name is Mario so that Luigi knows his bro got his back." It's a clear reference to accused assassin Luigi Mangione, who has been charged with shooting and killing Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. And then, I mean, look at this. You can just see this. It explains everything. Following follow-up post, Harris attempted to play coy about the reference of Mangione. She wrote, "Some of y'all have never heard of the critically acclaimed Mario Brothers franchise by Nintendo, and it shows." And in another, she said, "Maybe instead of emailing people's employers, y'all should be emailing your reps and demanding gun control immediately." Nah, maybe you should be removed. And I believe they have been, but again, I don't know about that, but I'm sure as hell not buying Ghost of Yode now. On top of Harrison, numerous other game developers and so-called industry professionals liked her post celebrating the assassination reference to Mangione. Includes Kelly Schneider, Sucker Punch senior producer, the Coalition senior producer Lee Cash, who has now deactivated his account because he's a pussy, Bungie SFX associate producer Dennis Yolito, Kotaku writer Zach Sveinson, Hollywood reporter Jordan Shearless, narrative system designer at Studio Dry Doc Ben Book Schwartz, Counter-Strike and Valorant caster Luther Minshall, Greek Geek Academy co-founder Lizzie Kane, senior material artist at That's No Moon Chris Vasquez, and former OSO VR QA lead Mark Valentine. And there was also another article where some voice actor from, I think also from Ghost of Yode, spoke up something too. Well, this game is DOA, as if it wasn't already DOA before, but it's for sure now not getting notified. But all I can say is rest in peace, Charlie. We're praying for the family and everything, and I pray that the Lord, delivers justice, and my God, the Lord cannot come quick enough to punish all these assholes. That's all I had for you. Like I said, we might be going on a little hiatus with the Power Up podcast and focus more on gaming. It feels like I get more success doing that than this, to be all honest, but I do enjoy keeping ourselves sharp and up to date too. And at least with guests and scripted content, we'll still be doing this. But let's end on a not negative note here as we sign off for today. Let's see. and see what games were released throughout the day. So this day in gaming. So we got Breath of Fire 3. I've heard of that one. Drakengard. Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm Revolution. Super Mario Maker. There you go. Let's see. Oh, wow. Not a really solid list this today. Not looking good. Axel, but I heard Breath of Fire is good. What's Drakengard? I feel like I've heard of this before, to be honest. Interesting. Dragoon is apparently the Japanese name. Interesting. But you have some good ones up here. Unfortunately, it kind of teeters off a little bit afterwards. So sadly, and also on 9/11, never forget. But in terms of video games, not a good list. Tomorrow, Adventure Island, Tokitori, Phantasy Star Online episodes 1 and 2 for the GameCube, Harvest Moon, A Wonderful Life, Scooby-Doo Unmasked, Harvest Moon DS, Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, Grip Shift, Mega Man ZX, Heavenly Sword, which someone actually, Mr. Matthews actually recommended me to play. Oh, here you go. Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver version. And there you are. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Ugh. Professor Layton and the Unwound Future. Oh, gosh. Borderlands 4, which I heard is not doing so good. Maybe. There we go. There's a better list for you. All right. Well, that's all I had for you guys today. Thanks for hanging out. Again, I'm kind of contemplating putting the show on hiatus. It may not be that much, but we'll see. But definitely right now, need to get through this week with all the insanity. It's about Charlie Kirk. Yep. Oh, it is sad, disgusting, makes me angry. I hate it. I hate injustice. I want the Lord to come swift. Oh, my friend, a boy, Angel Legend is on. My friend Eric. Very cool. Let's see. We'll raid Drunk. And then over on Rumble. Yeah. But there we go. I'm signing off. You guys have a good rest of your night. Should be back online. Probably do some more Punisher. I did get the PC version reinstalled and everything. So we might start over and have the true unedited version. The true sweet version. So don't miss out. Until then, take care. God bless. Peace.